Okay, so before I begin with the rest of the presentation, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. So we wish to acknowledge this land in which the University of Toronto operates for thousands of years. It has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. And today this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So this slide just goes through some of the important dates. So I'm going to be talking about, again, the Master of Information and Master of Museum Studies programs and the application deadlines. So if you've gone onto our website, you would have noticed that applications are open. So they did open September 1st for programs for fall 2025 entry. And the deadline is January 31st. And so that will include the submission of your online application, as well as paying the application fee and all of your supporting documents. And I'm going to go through what those supporting documents are in just a minute. So January 31st is the final deadline for all of those documents, and that is for both domestic and international students for both of the programs. So what are we looking for in terms of admissions? So first, GPA. So we calculate your GPA in two ways. We take either your CGPA, your entire 4 years, or your final year only, and we take whichever of those two is highest. Your final year is not necessarily your last year of study. It's going to be a year's worth of senior level courses. So a year's worth of 3rd or 4th year courses, and that's how we're going to calculate that final year average. We do look at files on a holistic basis, so we do consider the entire application equally and holistically when we do review files. So it's not just about the GPA. We will consider those other documents as well. So we do require the completion of a 4-year bachelor's degree or equivalent. So you will have to submit transcripts to show that work. So we require transcripts from all post-secondary studies, whether you've completed the degree or not. So even if you started a degree at an institution but didn't finish it, we still need those transcripts. If you received transfer credit, if you went on exchange, we will need all of those transcripts to assess your file. So you can submit, so if you have completed your degree, you can provide us with an official copy right at the time of your application so that you won't have to, it kind of saves time from you having to do it later if you are admitted to the program. In order for a transcript to be considered official, it must be sent to us directly from your institution in a sealed, unopened envelope. We will also accept electronic copies as official, and that can be sent to our email address, which is admissions.ischool@utoronto.ca. Or we will also accept official transcripts through third-party platforms such as MyCreds or Parchment. If you're finishing your degree, or you don't have or you're unable to get the official transcript yet, you can just upload copies of your transcripts to your online applicant portal, and we can use those unofficial ones to assess your file. But if you are admitted to the program, we will eventually need those official ones. So just keep that in mind. I forgot to actually mention, if you do have any questions throughout today's session, you can jot down or type out your questions using the Q&A feature through the Zoom webinar. So at the very bottom, you'll see Q&A, and you can write your questions there, and one of my colleagues will help answer your questions, or I can answer them throughout the presentation as well. So then we're also looking for references. So we're looking for 2 academic letters of recommendation. So in the online applicant portal, you're going to enter the name and email address of your referees. As soon as you save that information, they automatically get sent a referee form to complete. And then in the referee form, it's going to ask you or ask your referee to rate you on certain skills, such as your communication skills, research skills, analytical skills, things like that. And at the bottom of the form, they'll have an opportunity to write or expand in more detail in that section of the form. That automatically gets uploaded and saved to your online applicant portal. So you're able to keep track of whether or not the reference has been submitted or not. If you have been out of school for more than 5 years, we will accept professional references instead. However, if you do submit a professional reference, you just want to make sure that they are speaking to skills that are relevant in a master's level program. So rather than speaking about, workplace success, you want them to talk about those skills that are important in graduate studies. So like communication, writing, reading skills, research skills, analytical skills, and that kind of thing. Then we're looking for a resume or CV. And this is unlike a work resume where you're typically limited to 2 pages. An academic resume is different in that there is no page limit. You can include anything that you want us to know about you, any information that you were not able to include in your personal statement, and just anything that will help us get to know you better as a person. Some students want to include a portfolio. While it's not required by any means for admission, if you want to submit a link to your portfolio, that is where you would do it. You would put it in your resume or CV. So you want to include things like your work experience, volunteer experience, any clubs or associations you're part of. You can even include things like your interests, if you're part at any research project that you've worked on, and those types of things can be included in your resume or CV. And then if your first language is not English, or you were educated in an institution where the language of instruction and examination was not in English, you will also need to submit a English proficiency test score. If you do have questions about that, please get in contact with us and we can talk to you about how what would be required if you were eligible for a waiver, for an English proficiency waiver. So I want to focus a little bit more on the statement of intent. So if you go on to, again, our website, you're going to see a detailed explanation of what we require for the statement of interest. And there are 3 sections to the statement. So the first part is your personal statement, and that's 400 to 600 words. And this is where we want to get to know about you. We want to know what your interests are, what your goals are. Why are you interested in the Faculty of Information? Why are you interested in a specific program or concentration? And why at the iSchool? Why at U of T? So here we want to see that, you've done some research, you know what you want to do. Of course, that might change throughout the program, but have an idea of what you want to do and how do you see this program helping you achieve your goals. So those are the types of things we're looking for. In online, you will see some prompts to help guide your thinking and help guide your writing. You are not required to answer every single one of those prompts. They're meant as prompts meant to help guide your thinking and your writing. So you don't have, please do not answer it as a Q&A. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we do see in an application. Then there are going to be 2 questions that you're going to answer in the other 2 sections. So one is a mandatory question, and it's 200 to 300 words. And this is where we want to see your potential role within our diverse learning community. And then you're going to answer one reflective question, and this is where we're looking for your critical thinking, your interpersonal skills, and your ability to reflect on past experiences. So you're going to answer one reflective of the 4 choices that are available there. You do not have to answer more than one question. Answering more than one question will not put you in an advantage at all. And then altogether, your statement should be all in one Word or PDF file and no longer than 4 to 5 pages. So then after you've submitted your application, you want to make sure you are logging into your applicant portal to make sure that we're not missing any documents. So it is your responsibility as the applicant to make sure everything has been submitted, including letters of recommendation. So those, again, have to be in by January 31st. So you want to go on, you want to make sure they've submitted their reference. And if they haven't, you can send them a reminder through your online applicant portal as well. Or you can send them an email reminder just letting them know that the deadline is January 31st and it does need to be submitted by then. So any incomplete files that don't have all the transcripts or don't have all the references won't be reviewed for admission. And then you will be notified of a decision. So we do not do rolling admissions. In order to ensure a more fair and equitable admissions process, we have one application deadline and one response deadline for all. So all applicants will be notified of a decision end of March, early April, and you will be able to find that decision through your online applicant portal. That is also where you can accept or decline your offer should you be offered admission to the program. So there is a form in your offer package that you can sign that says you accept or don't accept your offer. Hopefully accept your offers. And then you will be sent more information via email from our team throughout the process as well to send you reminders throughout the process, the admissions process. Okay, so how much does the program cost? So this gives you sort of a rough estimate of the fees of the program. So there is a standard program fee, no matter how many courses you complete, whether you complete it on a full-time or a part-time basis, the standard program fee is the same for everybody. And so these are based on 2024, 2023, 24 amounts. So it's roughly around, for domestic students, $12,000 a year. For international students, about $43,000 a year. The Master of Information program can be completed on a part-time basis. The Master's of Museum Studies is full-time only, so that is why you do not see a part-time fee option there. And then so part-time students pay the same amount as I mentioned, but it's going to be in smaller chunks and spread out over a longer period of time. So full-time students have a maximum of 3 years to complete the program, and part-time students have a maximum of 6 years to complete the program. For part-time students, if you complete it in less time than 6, which most of our students end up doing, they usually finish within 3 to 3.5 years. You're going to have what's called a balance of degree fee, and that's because you just wouldn't have paid the full amount of the program. So at the point of graduation, you're going to be given a final invoice, which is going to be the remaining cost of the program owed. So it's not going to cost you more, it's just the remaining cost of the program. And that's called a balance of degree fee. So I want to talk a little bit very quickly about money matters. So being a professional master's program, we don't have a full funding package as a research-based master's program might have, but we do have some options available. And I wanted to go through some of the ways that our students fund their education or fund their studies. So I've sort of broken it down into 3 buckets to hopefully make it a bit easier for you to understand. The first is financial aid. So financial aid is, it's mostly needs-based. So it's based on financial need, essentially. And that is the most popular way that students tend to fund their education. So most of our students do receive OSAP or some other form of government loan if you're outside of Ontario or Canada. So for students receiving OSAP, your financial need information usually is sent to us directly. And then we're able to assess your eligibility for other scholarships and awards that are also needs-based. Through that, or you can fill out the out-of-province financial aid application form as well to assess your financial need. We also have what's called a PMFA, and it's a grant that attempts to fill a portion of that financial gap for full-time students who are receiving the maximum amount of government financial aid, but whose funding doesn't fully cover all the university costs. So the university tries to cover a portion or a percentage of that amount that you wouldn't be receiving through OSAP or some form of government aid. Then there are emergency grants that are available. So if you do encounter an emergency situation, like your house flooded or you lost your apartment, you can't pay for food or that month's rent, you can apply for emergency grants. And then students with disabilities, So a student with a permanent disability may receive funds through the Canada Student Grant for persons with permanent disabilities as part of their OSAT funding. In addition, grants are available through the Ontario Bursary for Students with Disabilities and the Canada Student Grant for services and equipment for persons with permanent disabilities. And then finally, our students may use a line of credit. So you can apply for a line of credit at any financial institution that you're most comfortable with. The University of Toronto has partnered with Scotiabank to give U of T students a preferred rate, but you certainly do not have to go with Scotiabank if you do not wish to. So the second bucket or category are awards and scholarships. There are a few entrance and admission scholarships and awards that are available that are you're automatically considered for with your application to the program. So there's no separate application that is required. You will be notified of those decisions at the same time as your admission to the program if you are one of the successful recipients for an admissions award and scholarship. So there's nothing extra you have to do. You'll just be automatically considered for it with your application. In addition to the automatic entrance awards, there are additional scholarships that you can apply for. So there are external government awards such as the OGS, the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, or the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, so SSHRC Award. Those application deadlines are usually a lot sooner than the deadline to apply for the program. So if that is something you're considering, you want to look into applying for those now because they do close quite early. And then, of course, there are other School of Graduate Studies and faculty awards that you may be eligible for that you can find on our Money Matters page. And then finally, employment on or off campus. We do have a great work study program where you are able to work on campus at various departments, and then any, of course, off-campus employment that you might have. So that is it for me. I'm going to pass it over to our Manager of Career Services, Esmeralda, and she's going to talk to you about everything careers.
Thank you, Claudia. Hi, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Esmeralda Prifty, and I'm the manager for the Co-op Careers and Work Integrated Learning here at Faculty Information. So as a student, future student of Faculty Information, you can have access to our career services and professional development courses that we may have. And all students can have a one-on-one appointment with a career advisor. So either you are a student in MMSt program or in MI program, you will have an assigned advisor that you can meet and discuss your career needs. Most of the time, our students require support related to resume and cover letter review. We offer mock interviews. We do offer networking and employer events on campus. At the same time, we make sure to tailor other events that are offered, for example, from Central Career Services here at the University of Toronto, and we make sure to share those with our students. At the same time, we try to elaborate and find other networking opportunities that are offered through alumni or associations that are associated with our faculty. We do offer workshops, which are career-related workshop, again, building on resume, cover letter, interview strategies, and personal branding and networking. At Faculty Information, we have a job board. The system that we use is Simplicity. So if you become a student, you'll hear a lot about Simplicity, where most of the communication with our students go through. And at the same time is a place where our students, especially those in work integrated learning, have the opportunity to see jobs that are posted by our employers who want to hire Faculty Information students. And students have the opportunity to apply and have access to these jobs. In terms of Master of Information programs, there are two work integrated learning opportunities that you can be part of. One of them is Master of Information co-op option. So if you opt for the co-op option, you can have up to 2 consecutive full-time paid work terms. You can have summer, a 4 months co-op, and summer and fall 8-month co-op. This is open to all students and all concentrations in the MI program. When we say all students, one of the eligibility criteria is to be a full-time student. In addition, you can have access to practicum, which is offered in the winter term of the second year. It is 105 hours paid or unpaid placement, and it is offered in various organizations. This is offered in the second year for students and in the last term, with the intention that students who, for example, chose not to do co-op, they will still have an opportunity to complete an experiential learning. In addition, students who are in LIS and ARM, they can access talent and immersive mentoring opportunity, which is highly in demand for students. It provides a guaranteed 15 hours per week for the full 2 years that you'll be in the program, including the summer. This applies for those who have an interest in academic libraries and consider applying and having a career in this field. Here we have a snapshot of our past employers. We're not going to go through each of them. You'll have access to this recording after, and you can take a deep dive in employers who have hired our students. But as you can see here, there's a high range of employers from different industries and sectors, including financial sector and government. So some of the most common names that you'll be seeing here is Deloitte, different banks, like BMO, IBM. You'll see different other organizations and in Loblaw Companies Limited, and you'll see some universities as well. And one of the major employers that we have is Government of Ontario, which hire our students in different ministries. So we continue here with the list of our employers, and you can take a look more closely later on. And in this slide, we're sharing sample of co-op jobs that our students take based on different sectors. As I mentioned, government, banks, and universities are our major employers, especially in the GTA area. And for government, they are looking for students who are in the data science, data and policy analyst, information management analyst, system analyst, and transparency analyst. At the same time, I can add here user experience as well. It's highly in demand. Banks, user experience, data science engineering intern, business analyst intern. And universities, assistant archivist, data analyst, and UX as well, and information risk and data analyst. Upon graduations, our students look for employment, and some of the most common jobs that they have shared with us that have secured after graduation is a librarian, data scientist, social media strategist, knowledge management analyst, digital archivist, and so on and so forth. Museum studies. For the Master of Museum Studies, students can opt in for the internship option. And in order to join the internship, students have to take the prerequisite course, Emerging Professional Prep course. The internship placement takes place in the summer after the first year is complete and is minimum 8 weeks. It can be paid or unpaid and full-time or part-time. Students have historically held internships in a wide variety of museums, galleries, related cultural heritage institutions, government, for-profit, and non-for-profit. And here is a list of organizations that have hired our students in the past and the different positions that they have held. For example, Canadian Language Museum, Canadian Museum of Nature, Gardiner Museum, University of Toronto Art Museum, Woodstock Art Gallery, Ontario Heritage Trust. And in terms of different placements, they have completed as collection assistant, collection practicum intern, collection technician, exhibition assistant, heritage intern, program and curator intern. So that's all from careers, and Thank you very much for listening to me. And I'll pass it to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Esmeralda. So we are going to move on now to some of our current students who are here to speak to you about their experience in the program, specifically our Master of Information program. So we have Yizu, we'll start with you. And we also have Nicholas, and you can start after Yizu's done.
Hi, thank you, Andrea. Hi, everyone. My name is Isu. I just finished up my courses over the summer, and now I'm working with recruitment and an admission team. My concentration was UXD, and my experience has been so positive. So I really want to share that with you. So I was searching and applying for grad school. I really want to gain more practical skills, and school has definitely helped me to do that. What I have appreciated most are the opportunity and resources it provides. So during my time here, I have took 2 different work study jobs on campus, one about social media, the other one was about professional development. I also work as a UX designer for the healthcare setup during my practicum. So I create personas, user journeys, and design a brand new user interface for them. And I also did a co-op as a UX researcher at the SCORE by doing interviews with different stakeholders, sending out questionnaires, and provide insights and feasible changes to the system. And by applying what I learned in class, I have successfully led over like 20 usability tests about gaming behavioral and received really positive feedback. And the iSchool really helped me to explore my field of interest because I don't have any background before. And like after entering this program, I got a chance to learn and work in the UX industry, both on the design and research side. And the support from everyone, whether the staff, professors, and peers, has been so amazing. I've been attending portfolio review events, panel sessions, networking, and so on. So I would say coming here was a really good decision because it just opened up so many doors for me, both personally and professionally. Yeah, I hope my sharing could be helpful. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. A second year LIS stream student from the Master of Information. My experience is a bit different than Yizu's. I'm from the Bachelor of Information program, so I had a bit of a head start on the 2 years of understanding like the different streams that we offer with UX UI design and museums, archives, and galleries, as well as data science. So in my undergrad, I liked a bunch of different things and I bounced around different fields. And as I was in the BI, I really fell in love with that passion to try everything and expand on like what my interests are. Usually like with some of the coursework did in my undergrad, I wanted to upgrade it or expand on it in grad school. So choosing the MI was like the next progression in that step. And then while at the MI program, I knew some of the faculty already, but I was able to meet more faculty, and that's where I got to meet more friends and like become more involved on campus. I'm currently a part of the student council as well, so you'll probably be seeing my face around a lot, but like on our social media accounts and all that. But basically, the reason why I decided to stick with the stream of library and information sciences is because of how broad it is and how interesting it is to meet people from different faculties, like from their undergrad and grad experience to come together to actually learn and engage with the world in a new way. And yeah, that's a bit about my experiences as well.
Great. Thank you both so much. So what we're going to do now is we are going to answer any of your questions that we have not been able to answer yet. You can certainly ask questions to our alum and student, Yizu and Nicholas, if you have any for them as well, to our careers team, if you have careers related questions. I did want to address, I did see a question with regards to references. I just wanted to expand a little bit on that. You are able to submit a third optional reference if you wish. The third optional can be academic or professional. So there was a professional reference that you did want to get a reference from, you are able to do that. And then I did see another question with regards to PhD candidates. Unfortunately, they would not be able to provide a reference, or they would not count as one of your academic references. If they did submit one, it would have to be a faculty member who did submit that reference to count as your academic reference. So if anybody has any other questions before we move on to our next portion of the session, please feel free to enter it in the chat or the Q&A. So it looks like there's a question for Yizu. As someone who's interested in UX design but has not had a lot of experience, what is it like?
Yeah, because I think our faculty, the program provide really like fundamental courses for the beginners. As myself, I don't have any background in UX before, but like after entering the programs, we have like mandatory courses like INF 1602. It just provides you the whole process from the research to like doing prototype, how to do like real frame stuff. So don't worry about that. You got all covered. You'll be fine because you have like so many supports such as professors and their peers. Yeah, I hope that could be helpful.
What is, sorry, scrolling through here. Is it okay if our personal statement focuses mainly on our career goals and why we want to be a librarian, for example, rather than focusing too much on U of T specifically? Yeah, absolutely. Again, we just want to know about your interests, what you want to do, and how do you see this program helping you get there. That is perfectly fine. So we don't require students to have any sort of relevant background, academic background in the program or concentration you're interested in applying to. So there's someone who said that they're interested in human-centered data science. So you don't have to have a relevant background, as I mentioned before, or a technical background. What is the admission rate for the specific concentration? So we, as of right now, we don't necessarily limit per concentration. So in your online application, you're going to choose your top choice concentration that you're interested in, and then you're also going to select a second choice option, and you would be admitted into one of those concentrations. But again, in terms of admission, we are going to be looking to see you know, that you're a good fit for the program and the program is a good fit for you. So exactly. So again, why you're interested in the program and how do you see this program helping you achieve your goals?
And kind of add on to that as well, like from my experience, I have no background in stats, but this summer I decided to take stats classes. Even in my undergrad, like stats was probably the hardest class I took. But even in my statement, I put that like I had an idea for a project from undergrad, and then I applied that towards saying like I want to revamp this or I want to add more to it in my grad like program, like when I'm in the field. So I'd recommend if you go on the faculty website or like see what other professors and their research areas are, and then I use that as a platform to describe the kind of things I would like to do. I don't have like a clear goal of what I want to be after I graduate at the moment, but librarianship in like that field is something that I want to pursue. So I was try to be as clear as possible with like where my research areas are. So a project that I did was about comparing monologues and their sentiment analysis scores. So like how emotional a monologue is between two different characters and seeing like if there's any relationship like that. Yeah, it was a fun project, but to like add that into like the statement to say like this is what I'm interested in and this is like an under researched area as a way to improve and like you can talk about how the program and like doing the 2 years will help you improve on that or like try to find an answer is probably my best advice to give on what to put in a statement. But yeah.
I could answer another question about the interviews about UX. So I would say it depends because it would just be very different for UX designer and researcher. So for designer, you need to prepare for your portfolio, and for researcher, is normally not so like commonly seen there in the interviews to ask about your whole portfolio. So I would suggest to like book mock interviews with our career team. That'll be super helpful. And we also offer portfolio review sessions during the semesters. That one is also super helpful. And for if you want to be a researcher, definitely prepare for behavioral question. And I think you could also include experience in iSchool. For example, I used to include my NF 1602 experience because I was a research lead. And I think that experience really helped me to get the job. Yeah.
And for those of you who have specific questions about the actual programs, concentrations, you are going to hear about that next. So we do have some of our faculty members here with us who are going to be able to give you more details about the Master of Information program, Master of Museum Studies program, and the combined degree program. So we are going to get started with that very shortly. We can answer a few more questions and then we can take a short break and we'll move on to that portion of today's session. I just want to answer a question in the chat with regards to transcripts that are required. So we do not require transcripts that are from a private college or institution, but yes, we will need transcripts from a continuing studies program or sorry, I'm just trying to see what it says, or single courses taken from a college or university. Yes, we will need those transcripts as well. So you do not have to calculate your GPA yourself. So there is going to be a portion in the application that it is going to say or ask you what your GPA is. You can skip that question. It is not required. We do have our admissions assessors who will do the assessments and calculations here. So don't worry about that. For the person who took the additional year, that is perfectly fine. We still use your CGPA, so the entire your entire studies, and then we'll still calculate your final year in the same way. So you'll take a year's worth of your senior level courses, your third or fourth year courses. Oh, I also, I didn't mention, for those of you who are interested in the Master of Information and Master of Museum Studies combined degree program, you are required to submit 2 separate applications. So you will have to submit an application to the MI program and an application to the Museum Studies program. And if you're admitted to both, you would accept both of those offers to indicate that you are interested in the CDP option. There is also going to be a question in the application that says, are you interested in CDP? You can check off yes, and then you'll be able to, or you will have to write briefly why you're interested in the combined degree program specifically. But it is 2 separate applications. You will have to upload your supporting documents twice. You do not need to get 4 references. They can still be the same 2 references, but they do have to upload them twice, one to your MI and one to your MMSt applications. You can decide after getting both offers, if you do get both offers, whether or not you want to accept both or one. It's up to you, but that is how you would apply to the CDP pathway. We will only include the courses that have grades, so not the ones that were a pass or fail or just credited. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 2-minute break, and then we will get started with the next portion of today's event.
I know that's a mouthful. I will explain what what that is. But what I wanted to kind of clarify from the very beginning is that we emphasize thorough preparation in the broad spectrum of museum theory and practice. So we emphasize critical thinking, ethical practices that are centered on community first values. And we are also very committed to thoughtful leadership that will serve the kind of the future of our field, which is a museum and heritage sector. What is the generalist program? So in our program, you are exposed to many of the core building blocks of the profession, and you can focus your learning on specific interest. And the main areas that we cover here, but this is not an exhaustive list, are collections management and care, interpretation, education and visitor research, public programming, project management, curatorial practice, ethics and leadership. And oftentimes in our curriculums, these broad professional areas intersect. So a little bit about who we are, who is makes up our community of professors. So we are the only English-speaking program in Canada that offers a professional master level degree in museum studies. And we are very, very fortunate to be located in the Faculty of Information. As you know, many of you here perhaps are in this room. Obviously I don't know how many of you here are interested in museum studies, but many of you might be interested in having a MI degree and a Master of Information degree. And I know my colleague, Dr. Lapp, will talk about that a little bit later on, but it offers incredible synergies and opportunities that we often invite our students to explore beyond being within the museum studies program. So as a program, we are a team of 4 full-time faculty members, and I'm here to greet you on behalf of my colleagues Cara Krimporic, Maggie Hutchison, and Jennifer Orpana. But we are also joined by an incredible team of instructors who are also professionals. And our instructors come from the Ontario Science Centre, the Royal Ontario Museum, the Art Gallery of Ontario, the City of Toronto museums. We also have colleagues who are consultants and independent professionals, and also some of our higher level PhD students who are also very skilled and savvy in the practice model that we teach. Sometimes also you also take classes with them. So our kind of combined areas of expertise, and our expertise is oftentimes research and professional, or research and professional, covers areas such as museum studies, anthropology, critical collections management, community-based research, environmental studies, communication studies, women's history, food studies, and that's not exhaustive, but this is just an idea of some of the areas that we research and we also integrate into our courses. In terms of the professional experience that we bring to the table as a community of teachers, includes collections management of art and ethnographic collections, provenance research, policy and preventative conservation, arts-based participatory engagement, co-creative storytelling, curation, interpretive planning. And if some of these are unfamiliar to you, you have to come to the Museum Studies program and you will learn what exactly they are. In terms of who our learners are, so who would be your colleagues should you join us in the following year? Our learners literally come from numerous fields. If you think about an academic field, you will find it represented in the student body in our program. We had students from art history, archaeology, history, anthropology, sciences, marketing, zoology, urban study, environmental studies, and many, many more. Some of our students sometimes have some professional experience, but the majority do not, or maybe they had an internship or exposure to museums during a co-op. And some of our students might have a graduate degree already. Some of them are fresh out of undergraduate. Some of them have taken a couple of years off just to be certain that this is a pathway that they want to continue. Before I get into the more detail about how our program is structured, I want to talk a little bit about our visions and values, what our beliefs are, what informs our pedagogy. So we truly believe in a kind of a knowledge in action framework. So we want to empower our students to advocate for decision making through good, slow, inclusive, intentional application of research. We emphasize significantly awareness of historical context, historical consciousness, deep understanding of museums as institutions with diverse and complex professional communities, governance and policy ecosystems. So we think about institutions in their entirety. So we think about how we teach in relation to two kind of different buckets. We think about the areas of knowledge that you need to have in order to be able to apply skills into the field. We are very interested in interdisciplinary reflection, and all our teaching is grounded in a framework of progressive pedagogy, that we reflect the contemporary calls in museums and the heritage sector towards social justice, anti-racism, decolonization, practices of care for museum workers, equity. These are very, very important foundations in how we teach and how also we see the needs of the field. And some of the values in our programs that are reflected in our courses, assignments, our partnerships, our relations outside of the program are community-centered processes and practice, theory-informed decision-making, critical interrogation of history, social processes, as well as understanding what some of the best practices are in our field, and also being equipped with critical framework to be able to assess them, evaluate them, and contribute to how they can be changed, shifted, kept the same. We engage with decolonial methodologies, human-centered approaches to collections, programming, and such. So these are some of the principles that lead us to our pedagogical action. In terms of how you might want to experience the Museum Studies program, there are two different pathways. So you can either take the capstone project pathway, and I'm going to explain what that is, or the thesis pathway. The thesis pathway is a research-based project working one-on-one with a supervisor on a topic of interest. And a thesis can take many formats. It can also include creative research or research creation. You can also take the capstone pathway, which tends to be the most popular in our program. So I would say about 95% of our students decide to take the capstone pathway. And this is a project-based collaboration with an external institutional partner. And students work in projects from the grounds up. So in a capstone project, you manage, on one side you do the project management for the entire project, and then you deliver the outcome. And I'm going to be happy to give you some examples and talk some more later on during the Q&A if there's interest. But our partnerships have been with institutions of cultural institutions of different sizes. We work with small grassroots museums. We also work with larger cultural institutions. We invite partnerships that are around collections management, exhibition, programs, kind of digital exhibition. So a variety of projects that students work on in the capstone course. At the Faculty of Information, you can also do a collaborative specialization, which means that you can take a few courses in 5 different collaborative specialization to develop and deepen your knowledge on a specific area. Currently, those are book history and print culture, which tends to be quite popular. Food studies, and I am the liaison for the food studies concentration, because a lot of my research is about food and museums and material culture. Jewish studies, knowledge media design, sexual diversity studies. And for both pathways, thesis or capstone, the program is structured around a set of required courses, which give you the foundation, and then electives. And electives can include courses in museum studies, courses at the Faculty of Information, but you can also spread wider and take courses at University of Toronto, right? We are kind of a smaller player in a very large institution, so that's important to also note that we have a lot of resources available because of our location at U of T. And I'm going to end with just a little bit of an information about what do our graduates do after they finish the program. So our program has been around since 1969. So we have different generations of alumni. And we have been keeping track of what they do, in certain cases anecdotally, because we build really good relationships. And that's something very important to note, that in the Museum Studies program, also because we are quite a unique degree in the Canadian landscape, we have alumni. This is not going to be a fact check information, but if you enter a museum, small or large in Canada, somewhere in there is going to be a MMSt alumni. We are really well connected with our alumni communities. Our alumni communities partner with us. Some of them teach with us. They hire our students. They advocate for the program. And this is an incredible asset. They want to help the new generations of museum studies students succeed in the field. They mentor. They are just wonderful allies for your professional success. So that's very important to note. Historically, many of our alumni work in small to medium size institutions and also larger cultural institutions in curatorial positions, but just with a caveat here that to be a curator, for example, if many of you are interested in the curatorial pathways require a PhD. But many curatorial positions in smaller local community museums or medium-sized museums do not require a doctorate. So many of our alumni are very well positioned with a graduate degree, with a master degree to enter those spaces. A lot of our alumni work in programs, education, interpretation. This is almost our second kind of popular area where our students do really well in the in the market, in the professional market. A significant number of our students actually work in donor relation and fundraising, which is quite interesting to know, the development, if that's something that's of interest. Many of our students work around policy development, culture policy, heritage policy. We have quite a significant number of students who also decide to do a PhD after they graduate. So it's quite, the possibilities are quite vast. And we also have a number of students who take their knowledge and skills from the field and then apply it into adjacent fields. So we have many students, for example, who work in communications, in social media management, in other fields that allows them to kind of experience with storytelling and writing. So many of our students work in the field, but many of them have found a kind of a good professional home outside of the field. And also we find that several of our students have been very successful in continuing to have a position with places where they have interned or where they have partnered up for a capstone project. So just in the last 30 seconds that I have, why should you study in this program? We have incredible work, integrated and community engaged learning opportunities, internship, capstone projects, applied projects in several other courses. We have an incredible network of partners and alumni who are very invested in the success of our students. We are very engaged with the field. All of us are researchers, right? We are at U of T, a thriving, excellent research institution, but we are very well connected. All of us who teach in the Museum Studies program have projects with professionals, community organizations. So we are very well grounded in the field, and that allows us to be better teachers for all of you. So I'll end it here, and I'm looking forward to questions during the Q&A. And I'm going to pass it back to Andrea.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to, let me just reshare my screen. 1 second. Sure. Okay, hopefully you can see it. So I'm going to pass it on to Professor St. Cyr, who is going to walk you through the Master of Information program.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see all the faces, although there are little black boxes all over Zoom. So my name is Olivier, and I'm an associate professor teaching stream in the Faculty of Information. I'm also the associate dean teaching and learning at the faculty. This is kind of my main administrative role. And for this year, I am the Masters of Information director. So I've looked at the questions earlier, some of the Q&A. I know there was a lot of questions about the MI, so I'll try to kind of explain all of these different pathways here. I'm a UXD professor, so I can speak very well about UXD for sure, but I'm not a specialist in all the concentrations and all the sub-programs that are listed here, but I'll do my best to explain them to you and to give you an overview. So our Masters of Information is an ALA, which is the American Library Association accredited degree. So when you get the MI degree, no matter which sub-program or concentrations that you're in, you do get American Library Association accredited degree. We are an iSchool. Some of you have heard the word before, iSchool. This is a movement that is a worldwide movement. There are several iSchools in the world, a few in Canada, several in the United States, some in Europe, in Asia, and all over the place. So in South America as well, and in Global South. And the iSchool movement really is a movement that tries to get people to think about information with a three-pronged model. So there are people, information, and technology. And all of these three prongs kind of interact with one another. And in all of our concentration, we touch on all these three things. But in some concentration, we're slightly heavier on two of the three or one of the three. And in other concentration, you'll see that we pull in kind of a little bit different direction, but any information problems that you're going to solve today will be related to people, information, data, and technology. And so it's very difficult to solve any information problem by ignoring one of those three things, right? There's sprinkles of all these three in all kinds of different things. So we say in our school that we formed information professionals. And so information professional needs to kind of see the world from that lens. So our Masters of Information degree is really preparing students to see information from this kind of multi-pronged point of view. And then we have all of these different pathways here that you see on the screen. So we do have the Masters of Museum Studies that was just described to you a few minutes ago. If we go to the top of the slide, we have the Masters of Information in the MI degree. So the MI degree is offered on a part-time or full-time basis. The typical part-time, full-time, sorry, I'm going to start with full-time. The typical full-time pathway is 4 courses per semester, fall, winter of first year, and then again, fall, winter of second year. 4 times 4 is 16, so your total of 16 courses, and that's kind of the typical full-time pathway. Some students also elect to do a summer semester between the first and second year. There's no extra fees to do summer courses. They're included in your tuition for your first year. So some students, instead of doing 4 and 4 in their first year, they'll do 4 and 3, or 3 and 4, or 3 and 3, and they'll take 1 or 2 summer classes to compensate. And by the end of their first year, they'll still have their 8 courses, but they've spread it over 3 terms as opposed to 2 terms. So that's kind of the full-time option, which is a majority of our students are full-time. There's also a part-time option. So part-time students take about 1 to 2 courses a year, a semester, sorry. So if you do the math and if you include the summer, it means that you could potentially take up to 6 courses per academic year, 2 in the fall, 2 in the winter, 2 in the summer. That will be 6 courses. You do that 1 more year, you get 12 courses, and you do this 1 more fall and winter, and you can probably finish by your 3rd year. Some students do it a little slower, which is fine too. There's different constraints and different models. You can take semesters of 1 course, and in that case, you could take 3 courses per year, or sometimes people take 4 courses per year, and then they can take up to 5 to 6 years to graduate with the Masters of Information degree on a part-time basis. So that is really a choice that students make. It is possible to switch from full-time to part-time, but it requires an appointment with our student services team in order to get that done. So very important for everyone on the call to understand is that you do get admitted to the Masters of Information degree. You do not get admitted to a concentration per se. So everyone is an MI degree student first. Then once you go into the pathways, you have a concentration coursework model where we're going to ask you to pick 1 of these 6 concentrations that are currently available. There's a concentration plus thesis model. This is for students who are typically more interested in doing advanced research or a stronger research component in their MI degree. So instead of doing 16 courses, you'll do 12 courses and a thesis. So you could see that it's somewhat still different than a full thesis master's, because if you do an MA, for example, or an MSc in science, you typically would do 4 to 5 courses, maybe sometimes 6, plus a thesis. Here we do 12 plus the thesis. So the main focus is still on the coursework, but you can swap 4 courses for a thesis with a supervisor, and you can do slightly more sort of independent work or work on a research project that's of interest to you. You do not get admitted to the thesis option right from the get-go. You first get admitted to the MI, and if you want to explore the thesis option later on, you have about 8 4 to 8 months, basically your first semester and plus a little bit of your second semester, to explore the thesis option and find a supervisor. So this is not something you need to decide now. You decide once you get into the degree. And the last option is concentration plus co-op, in which case you could do up to 2 co-op terms of 4 months each. You could do 2 times 4 months or 1 larger co-op of 8 months. This will replace, if you do the 2 times 4 or the 8 months, you'll have to do 14 courses instead of 16, and 2 courses will be your co-op terms. So 1 course per co-op term that you do. And then that will be your, again, you do not get admitted right away into the co-op option. You get admitted into the EMI after 1 semester with us in first year. If you've completed all the co-op requirements to get in, then you can get admitted to the co-op option. We have 6 concentrations that are currently open for you to choose from for the fall of 2025. So the first concentration is archive and record management, not record management. Sorry for the slight typo on the slide. So archive and record management. If you want to become an archivist, that's the concentration that you should probably pick. So every time you play with data, you're likely to create a record. So today you're browsing your computer, you're leaving a trace behind. There might be some web analytics that gets created. That is a record. You're writing someone an email. There's a record that gets created. So people who do archives and records management learn how to process records, classify records, how archival science, and deal with all kinds of information related to someone's records. So these could be older records that there's only exist 1 copy of. It could be on paper. It could be a piece of an object. It could also be digital. So there's a whole world of information here. A lot of the older records are obviously like physical records, but more and more people who study archives are also in touch with digital records, because a lot of the records and the data that we transfer nowadays is digital. In the culture and technology concentration, we learned the relationship between technology and people. So how does technology changes our way of life? So we talk about introducing all these apps and systems and phones and et cetera, et cetera. We're talking about AI right now, right? The introduction of AI into our world and our work habits. But how does that change our culture? How does that impact the way that humans live together, the way they communicate, the way they interact with all this technology, right? So every time we make these technological changes, there are changes for humans and people. So this concentration focuses on studying the relationship between technology and people through a cultural lens. The human-centered data science, or commonly known as data science, is a concentration that deals with the processing of data, the algorithmic sort of putting algorithms together in order to process data, to analyze data, to find patterns into data. It's very important here that you note the keyword human-centered, because human-centered means that it's not just your sort of classic data science algorithmic type of things, but it's also the idea that all of this data science and all of the data that gets collected and processed and that we develop algorithms on has an impact on people. And there are people involved in this. The data should not be biasing. The data should not be exclusive. It should be inclusive. Algorithms should not purposely hurt people if we try to code them or develop them. So the idea here is that, yeah, you study data science, but you also study the human components that are attached to data science. Library and information science is really a program, again, mainly to work in libraries, to become librarians. It doesn't need to be so, but many of our students who go into library and information science are interested in the librarianship pathway. There are many types of different librarianship careers. There's academic librarianship, private librarianship, public librarianship. There's also work and jobs that mix some of those things. For example, there's such a thing as a UX librarian. So those are people who are interested in working in library, but being more like sort of user experience focused in the library. So many of our students who go to this program are interested in information science and librarianship. Now, this is the root of our school. The school is almost to its 100th year of existence, and it is very rooted in the lens of library and information science, specifically more library and librarianship in the past, but more recently sort of adding the keywords of information science. And when I say more recently, I mean in the last 3-4 decades. Information systems and design and user experience design are the last two. I consider them sort of kind of going together because one concentration takes care of the back end and one concentration takes care of the front end. So in information systems design, you do a lot of data modeling. You understand how data flows between systems, how to think computationally so that you can create data models and you can actually prepare a system to be functioning. So databases, data modeling, computational thinking, all of the infrastructure that is needed in the back end that we often don't see, but are extremely necessary for an information system, especially a technological or a digital information system, to be put together. In the user experience design, we take care of the front end. So this is the user interface, the user research, the experiences that people go through as they interact with a system. So it's the link between the human and the back end. So if you think about the technology in the back, the databases and the data centers and all that, and the human, in between there's a layer, and that layer is the interface. And the interface is actually what allows us to communicate with all this technological system and get answers from them. But we got to make sure we design these types of systems based on good and positive user experiences, right? So quickly here, I'm going to mention one last box at the bottom right of your screen, which are the collaborative program option. As it was mentioned before for the MMSt program, we have several collaborative programs that you can essentially add to your degree, to the MI degree. These collaborative programs will not ask you to do more courses. You still do the same, well, not the same, but you still do 16 courses, except that some of those 16 courses will be taken from environmental studies or women and gender studies or Jewish studies, et cetera, so that you'll be able to complete your 16 courses. All the courses you're going to take in your collaborative program options are going to be counting as elective courses for your MI degree. So then you end up with an MI degree with one concentration, whatever out of the 6. And if you want, you can add a collaborative specialization as well, but you don't have to. That's up to you. There are options to do so or not. So that's kind of the pathway right now for the MI degree. And I'll be sticking around, of course, to take questions if there are any. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much. And finally, I'd like to pass it over to, one second, social screen. Professor Lapp, who's going to talk to you about the combined degree program option or pathway.
Hi all, thanks for being here. So I think do I have a slide, Andrea? Perfect, thank you. Oh, I don't see the slide anymore. Does anyone else see? Can you see it? Okay. I don't know what's wrong with my computer that I can't see it, but that's fine. So the combined degree program it's offering students a chance to complete both the Masters of Information and the Masters of Museum Studies degree together in 3 years versus the 4 years it would take if you were to do these 2 degrees independent of one another. And this combined option is really offering students a broader perspective on cultural heritage, particularly in some of the areas we've already talked about. So interpretation, exhibition development and programming, cultural heritage and material culture, digital curation and preservation. These are just some of the ways that your learning is enriched through doing this combined degree approach. How you choose the MI concentration is entirely up to you. Many students choose to pursue their MI degree in Archives and Records Management or in UXD or Library and Information Science. These are all pretty complementary pairings with the Masters of Museum Studies education. In terms of the sort of where does this type of program lead you, a lot of students pursuing a degree through the CDP option will go on to work in collections management, in museums. Irina mentioned donor relations. They may become archivists. They may be working in the user experience space in cultural heritage organizations. So these are just a few types of examples of where folks have ended up. The degree is structured differently because it's a 3-year degree. So in the first year, you are considered an MI student. In your second year, an MMSt student. And in your third year, you're considered both. So you're taking a mix of courses. And it's a really rigorous program to ensure that you're meeting all of the degree requirements in 3 years. It's also a full-time registration program. It doesn't have a part-time option, and you will be required to take courses over the summer as well. So just in order to meet all the requirements as you move through the program. There are a few different experiential learning opportunities that are available to CDP students that are really important. So the first is the Museum Capstone Project. And Irina also already mentioned this in detail, but we can answer questions about that in the Q&A if you'd like to hear more. But the CDP students also have the option to either complete a 12-week summer internship, which is a museum studies placement with a museum or gallery or a related institution, or a 12-week practicum where students take a project on with the supervision of someone in the information studies professional field. I'm not sure why I can't see my slide, but I think I've hit all of the points I wanted to mention. So I'll just leave it there and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yes, you did hit on all of the points on the slide. Perfect. So now I'm going to open it up to all of you. If you do have any questions, I know there was a museum studies question that has already come in. So I'll pass it over to you again, Professor Mailake.
Thank you. Could you get the screen down?
Yep, I'm doing it right now. Oops.
If it's not too much trouble.
Yep.
Yeah,
There.
so I received a question about internships. So in the museum studies program, the internship is quite a very popular option. So to do an internship, you have to take a course called the Emerging Museum Professional, where you do a lot of the prep work for kind of applying for internships and developing your narrative, so a lot of the building blocks that lead to a successful internship application. And then in the summer following this course, you would be doing your internship. Our internships are very diverse. Our students do internships in kind of in large collections, working with well-established institutions, but more and more we notice that our students are interested in kind of designing their own internship experiences. So it's very common for students to go approach a museum, work with them to develop an internship. And this way the internship is very kind of tailored to the needs of the museum or the needs of the so there's different models in which an internship can happen. We offer a lot of support, and by we I mean specifically the careers team. They work with you closely to help you develop your portfolio, your applications. We have a good database of internships, but every year there's new internships. Our students also are encouraged to explore other options outside of Canada. And we do offer a stipend for unpaid internships. So we want to make sure that our students are not only able to have a good professional experience, but also to be able to to have a comfortable life as they do the internship. So we offer a stipend for students who are unable to receive a paid internship. So that would be my reply to that question.
And I also just wanted to, just because there's some questions coming up about the concentrations and what you're admitted to. So again, just wanted to say again that you are going to choose your first choice and second choice in the application when you apply, but you'll be admitted into one concentration, and the concentration you're admitted to will be indicated in your offer letter. So just make sure that you are paying attention to that.
I see lots of questions here that maybe I can help answer. I know some people are typing. So is there an approximate number of how many students are accepted within a different concentration in the MI? There's no cap, as Andrea already mentioned. And UX is very large. It's in the 200. HCDS is around 125, ISD around 70-ish, LIS around 100, archive around 80. Culture and technology, we're just reopening this year, so we don't have the actual data at this point. So that gives you a little bit of an idea, maybe. Somebody asked me if how in depth is the UX design course. All of our courses are meant to be taken by students who do not have experience in that particular field. So in UX design, we have both UX research and UX design, like design per se, like user interface design type of courses, but we also do UX research courses. And the first 4 courses are very much the fundamentals of UX, fundamentals of design, fundamentals of research, and fundamentals of information architecture. And then once you go into second year, there's all kinds of electives that you could take that are more advanced. If you want to, you don't have to, but you can take them if you want. We have a gaming course. We have a speculative design course. We have an accessibility and inclusive design course. We have the UX capstone course as well. That's there towards the end of your second year. We have a service design course, etc. So most of these elective courses or slightly more advanced topic courses will require you to have completed the 4 basic courses that we offer in first year. And then that also qualifies you for co-op in UX. You need to have these 4 courses under your belt in your first year. And then after that, you could do the more advanced courses. I hope this helps a little bit. So if you take co-op, it depends on each 4 terms co-op is, or each term co-op or 4-month co-op, I should say. Each term co-op or 4-month co-op is 1 course. So if you do 1 co-op, let's say from May to August, then that will you'll take a co-op course while you do this placement, and that will take off a course out of your 16. You still graduate with 16 courses, but your 1 term of co-op counts as 1 course. Then if you do a second term of co-op, let's say from September to December, that's 1 more course that you have. So that counts for a second class. And if you do 1 big co-op from May to December, like an 8th month co-op, then that counts for 2 courses. So every time you do 4 months of co-op, it counts for 1 course. That's typically how it's set up. With the ongoing demand in AI, are there any courses that are going to be offered that would be beneficial to take along with the UXD courses? Yes, we have some elective courses along those topics in human-centered data science, because there's huge applications of AI, obviously, in human-centered data science, but there's also lots of applications of AI in UXD, and we have one of our professors is starting to kind of go in this area and develop courses in this area. But, there's people in culture and technology that are also interested in AI and thinking about the impact that it will have on humans and society and the way we organize our lives. So I think this is obviously a very hot topic these days, and there will be many different concentration. We'll have people who are interested in teaching along those lines. They will approach AI from a slightly different angle, but at the end of the day, they will, don't forget, like it's like people, technology, and information. So AI fits in all three of those buckets and has some influence, whether positive or negative, on all of these three buckets. So that's why several folks in our faculty are interested in exploring those questions. How much of the faculty information course content overlaps with digital humanities? That's a good question.
I can maybe answer that.
Yeah,
I've taken like a few classes. So there's like the future of the book is an example of digital humanities. There's the future of things. So that's INF 2228. That's the digitization and like aspects of like more humanities-based research. So for me at least, like that's kind of my bread and butter, like being in the LIS stream. So I would say that there are definitely courses there. You just gotta go on
Yep.
the course offerings and see whatever speaks to you really, because it's a broad umbrella term. But yeah.
But it's not just a specialty in digital humanities, but there are courses, obviously, it's part of culture and technology quite a bit. I have a 4-year design degree. Oh, that question just disappeared. Maybe it's been answered. That's great. But no, if you have a 4-year design degree, you're not disqualified, sorry, for the master's degree. So you may have some knowledge of some topics we're going to cover. You may experience some new knowledge. It really depends what your design degree was focused on. There's different types of design degrees out there.
Olivia, there's somebody with a raised hand, Krishna.
Oh, yes.
I don't know who's moderating. Maybe
Yeah, thanks,
maybe
Arena.
somebody can moderate the discussion so we make sure we don't miss somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Krishna, if you want to open up your microphone, you're more than welcome to speak up.
Thanks, Oliver. So my question is, I think I'm listening to some of the tech courses coming from this Faculty of Information School, and how does those courses overlaps or differentiates from the other courses that University of Toronto provides? And if I probably the next question is like, if we want to pursue these tech courses from this Faculty of Information, take an example of data science, like what is the crux focus on the delivery or the takeaways we can go with?
Well, it's hard for me to compare the different programs from U of T because we have so many different master's degree at the University of Toronto. What I would say is one of the focus of our master's degree, whether it's the MMSt or the MI, but I can speak more specifically in the case of the MI, is the focus on people. So it's not just data science here, it's human-centered data science. And when we look at archive, when we look at librarianship, when we look at UXD, when we look at information systems design, people and being human-centered is always a focus in, I would say, probably all or most of the courses, a huge majority of the courses that we offer. And this is very common with iSchools in general. So if you check the program at another iSchool, you'll see that the human element and the people element in these programs is a very common thread, right? We also come from very different backgrounds and interdisciplinary fields. So if you go to a computer science department or to an engineering department, most of the professors that will teach you will be either computer scientists or engineers because that's who typically the computer science department and the engineering department hire. Here at the University of Toronto, in the Faculty of Information, I'm from engineering myself, but I sit next to a person who has a degree in English. And, Professor Mikahake has a interest in food and food studies and the cultural aspects of consumptions of food and all that, right? So that is, and then there's other people who are librarians, and there's another people who's a computer scientist, and also it's very rare elsewhere at the University of Toronto that you will find on the same floor professors that come from the humanities, the science, the engineering, the applied science, the business, et cetera, et cetera. So all of this is bringing a sort of a unique lens to the courses that we teach, right? We each have our specialties and our own knowledge of research, but it really is opening up to these kind of interdisciplinary aspect of our program, which you might not find in all departments at the University of Toronto. So I think the people-centeredness is very important in the high school, the human-centered, and the interdisciplinarity, and the fact that for 3 hours, you'll take a course with a professor that's from background X, and for the next 3 hours the next day, you'll take a course with a professor that is completely from a different background and brings a completely orthogonal perspective to what you may have learned the day before, right? And these two things together will clash and collide and will make you think and will make you reflect and will sort of open up some aspects in your mind and raise some questions that you might not be exposed otherwise in some other units. That's how I don't know if anybody else wants to take a crack at this, but that's how I would say it.
Thank you so much. The only follow-up I have is like, given that we do have some kind of collaboration with other schools or other departments, take an example. If I opt for human-centered data design, and could I be able to opt for some of the electives from the other departments?
Yes, so you're allowed to take 4 courses out of your 16 courses
Okay.
outside of the Faculty of Information, anywhere in the University of Toronto where they will welcome you. So that's very important. It doesn't mean that because you're a U of T students that another department will automatically want you to be enrolled in their courses. But in all likeliness, it's, people at U of T tend to be very open to things, especially at the graduate level and the graduate studies. So we have many students who go take courses in other units across campus. And as long as they're graduate level courses, then it's not a problem.
Okay, we have another hand raised. You can unmute yourself and go ahead, Yiheng.
Oh, thank you so much. I also have a question for the professor about the concentration, the co-op program. Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I just.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, you can give us your question and we'll see who's best to answer it.
Okay, for sure. I'm just a little bit confused about how it works. Like first you mentioned there's once we get admission to the master program, and then we can choose like 3 different directions. Either concentrations with thesis, concentration with course, and concentration with co-op, right?
Mhm.
Like, how does it work? Do we have to submit extra application for that? Like, do we have to take some fundamental courses first and then apply based on our performance or something?
Is there anybody who wants to take this from the career office, or should I take a crack at it? Andrea? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I can do it. So no, there is nothing extra you have to do with the initial application stage. So right now, all you're doing is you're applying to your program, you're selecting the concentration that you want to be admitted to, and then once you're in the program, so in your first year, there are specific requirements you're going to have to complete to be eligible to complete the co-op, which would start in the summer between your first and second year. In the winter is when you would start, if you wanted to do the thesis option, that's when you would start work on pursuing the thesis and your proposal and working on that. But no, there's nothing you do right now to indicate which pathway you want to pursue.
Okay,
that make
perfect. Thank
sense?
you. Yeah, totally. So that means all start in the summer, right?
The co-op
For
will
the co-op
start.
program
Yep, the
and the
co-op would
winter
start.
for.
Yes, but for the co-op program, if you want to do it in the fall of your first year,
Mhm.
there will be some mandatory module courses that you have to take. These are non-credit courses. There's 4 modules to complete, and they're offered in person. You complete them in the fall semester of your first year. So there was a link that was dropped in the chat here about the co-op system, the co-op admission. So if you're interested in doing co-op, when you show up in September, you will register to the co-op module course, which is not adding a credit to your degree. It's just a registration to show that you have an interest into co-op. You complete the 4 modules. And then once you complete the 4 modules and you finish all the required courses for first year in your concentration, just the first year courses that are required in your concentration, then you're eligible to do a co-op term.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Uh,
And
there's a-
somebody just dropped in the chat what the 4 modules for the co-op prep courses are. So if you can have a look at the chat, you'll see them.
There's also a question in the chat about whether or not you submit your application early or if you would receive an earlier response. No, we're not doing rolling admissions. So everybody will be reviewed after the January 31st deadline and will be notified after that date.
Somebody wanted to know a little bit about more the UX concentration. What does this cover? I'm happy to stay after for a few minutes I don't want to sort of monopolize the time on this. I want to give opportunities for people to ask more general questions. But I'm happy to answer it after.
I think there's a question in the Q&A about for MMSt program, can field studies or CRM count towards program completion?
I think it's being answered by, that's not something that I can speak to as a faculty member, and I think it's being answered in the Q&A.
One question that I often get when I do these information sessions, whether they're in person or online, is I'm slightly afraid that I don't have the right background to get into the Masters of Information. And I can tell you that you should not be afraid of this at all. If you look at a class composition in many of our courses, and I do a raise your hand. Raise your hand who's from engineering, raise your hand who's from business, raise your hand who's from the humanities, the social science, the medical, the pre-meds, the pure sciences, the life sciences, like name, I get about 10 to 15% of everything. So there's students literally from all kinds of different fields in our Masters of Information degree. So it's the background is not a huge consideration in terms of, you shouldn't be afraid that maybe because you have a business degree or like an engineering degree that you won't fit in a faculty of information. Like on the contrary, we want those different perspectives and we want people with different background in our classes. It sometimes varies from concentration to concentration, but all of our first semester class are meant to assume that people do not have any specific background in a topic. So if you take the intro to data science or the intro to UX, we're going to start baselining people to make sure that everybody can do and complete the intro to UX. And then, you're going to be ready for the more advanced courses that are coming up later on. So that's something to reinforce here, that backgrounds, people from all kinds of different backgrounds are welcome.
So we have 2 minutes left. So if you have any last minute burning questions for any of us.
I think there's one in the chat about personal statement and ARM application. And so I'm going to let you go with that one, Andrea. It's personal statement.
Besides following the prompts, personal statement. So again, as I mentioned before, you just want to make sure that, you've done some research. What specifically about the program are you interested? What do you want to do after you graduate? How is it going to help you achieve your goals? So those are the types of things we're looking for. We're looking for information about you. We're looking to see that you're a good fit for the program, but the program's also a good fit for you. So what are your interests, and how can this program essentially help you achieve your goals? Yeah, so really follow the prompts. Those prompts are quite detailed about what we're looking for you to include in those in that statement. So really do look at those prompts. And that's the personal statement part of it. The second part, like those mandatory and reflective questions, that is we are looking for the more of those sort of skills that will show us that you're ready for a master's level program, like your critical thinking skills, your reflective capabilities of past experiences, and that kind of thing.
I think one of the good aspects of that question too is the second part, like where the student is quite honest and saying, or prospective student saying, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do with this degree, but I have a lot of ideas. And I just want to comment on that because the MI degree is actually shaped that way. So if you look at the concentration, you'll see that most of the concentration have 5 required courses. Some have 6, some has 4, but in general, there's between 4 to 5, sometimes 6 required courses. So that means that it leaves you with, 12 to 10 courses to take outside of the required courses. And so that's where your thoughts about I have lots of ideas and I have like the degree is shaped like that. So if you're in a specific concentration, library science, for example, you could say, I'm going to do the 4 required courses. And then we have lots of electives that cover advanced topics in library, academic librarianship, community librarianship, children librarianship, et cetera, et cetera. But you don't have to do these electives in library if you don't want to, because you may be interested in learning about history of culture and technology, or you may be interested to learn a little bit about UX, or a little bit about statistics or programming. I had a library student a few days ago emailing me and say, I want to take the Python programming course because I think as a librarian, it will be useful for me to have that kind of technology and that kind of background in my future jobs. So, the degree is shaped to have a starting point with the required courses and then a lot of openings, which allows you to specialize in the field that you want by taking electives on that topic, or you can take completely different courses in completely different concentration as electives and then have a breadth of courses. So it's like kind of a T-shaped model, we often call it, where you're specialized in an area, which is your concentration, but you also have a lot of depth in the concepts of information in general, which are touching all of these different types of concentrations, right? So it's okay not to have a perfect plan in your mind. Say, I've already picked my 16 courses and I know what I want to do, because there's so many different choices. And as you start the master's degree, your interest may change or shift, or your ideas may be colliding with other ideas that you hear from different students from different disciplines. And that may open up your interest in one course or another topic. And there's a lot of possibility to explore those. You will be getting a degree in MI. Everybody gets an MI degree, so a Master's of Information, and your concentration is recorded on your transcript, on your University of Toronto transcript. But the concentration does not show in the actual degree. All the degree shows is Master's of Information. It's up to you after in your resume and CV and storytelling and portfolio and all these wonderful tools that you will put together to kind of tell the story of yourself and build your narrative around who you are as a person who's a Masters of Information professional, and what kind of expertise do you have and what kind of job you want to be looking for.
Great. So I'm going to reshare this final screen here. So if you do have any other questions after today, please feel free to connect with us through email, also through our Instagram. We will have other events happening throughout the year, so make sure you check out our events page. But I would like to thank all of you for attending tonight's session. I hope you found it very informative, and thank you to our professors and to our students and the rest of the staff here who helped make today go as smoothly as it did. So thank you again. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the night or evening or wherever you're logging in from, and we will connect with you soon.